Most people have it all wrong. They imagine the end of the world arriving with the deafening roar of 1,000 explosions or the terrifying tremors of the earth tearing itself apart. But the brutal scientific reality, the apocalypse doesn't begin with a bang. It begins with an unbearable silence. It's the hum of your refrigerator suddenly cutting out, a sound so constant you forgot it existed until now. It's the abrupt, synchronized thunk of every air conditioner on your block seizing up. It's the instant, eerie realization that the background radiation of your entire life has vanished. And then there's that final, distinct click inside your own mind. The terrifying spark of comprehension when you look around and realize your world, everything you rely on, has just gone dark. The grid is dead. Within the next 72 hours, your very biology is going to become a high-stakes, real-time laboratory for cascading failure. While the societal systems you took for granted crumble, the microsystems inside your cells will begin their own desperate protest. This isn't science fiction. This is the biophysics of sudden, total infrastructure collapse. Welcome to CyberRat. I'm here to help you debug your mindset before you have to learn to survive the hardware failure. Now, let's get one thing straight. This isn't about being a prepper in the way Hollywood sells it to you. I'm not here to hawk $500 tactical shovels or freeze-dried gourmet lasagna that tastes like salted cardboard. Those are consumer band-aids for a systemic hemorrhage. At CyberRat, we operate on a different frequency. We deal in hard science and low-tech, the kind of rugged foundational knowledge that doesn't require a subscription or a software update to function when the world goes offline. Think of this channel as your survival firmware. We're going to strip away the prepper porn and look at the cold, hard physics of collapse. We're talking about why your 100-watt solar panel is useless if you don't understand the chemistry of lead acid versus lithium iron phosphate. We're analyzing the geopolitical stress points of the U.S. interconnects and how the just-in-time supply chain is essentially a house of cards held together by cheap electricity and wishful thinking. The mission here is simple: repair the mind, survive the system. We focus on the things that are built to last. Edison cells that breathe for 100 years, gravity-fed filtration, and the psychological frameworks needed to keep your prefrontal cortex from shutting down when the panic hits. Because in a blackout, the most dangerous variable in the room isn't the lack of light. It's the person staring back at you in the mirror. If they haven't been programmed for the fallout, lock in. We're about to deconstruct the first 12 hours of the dark. The first 12 hours are a psychological chess match you don't even know you're playing. Right now, your brain is lying to you. It's whispering the most dangerous phrase in the survival lexicon. It'll be back on by morning. In clinical terms, we call this normalcy bias. Your prefrontal cortex is desperately trying to map a catastrophic outlier onto a lifetime of mundane experiences. But while you're sitting on the couch waiting for the Wi-Fi to reboot, your biology is already shifting into combat mode. Let's look at the chemistry. Within the first hour of a total grid failure, your adrenal glands begin secreting cortisol at a baseline shattering rate. Your body doesn't distinguish between a debt ceiling crisis and a saber-toothed tiger. It just knows the environment has become hostile. Your pupils dilate to hunt for photons in the encroaching gloom. But in the modern world, this backfires. Constant pupil dilation leads to rapid ocular fatigue and a tunnel vision effect that degrades your peripheral awareness by up to 25%. You aren't just in the dark. You're becoming functionally blind to the threats moving in the shadows. By hour 6, the tactical dehydration phase begins. Most Americans live in a state of semi-dehydration already, but the moment the taps go dry because the electric pumps in the city towers failed, the thirst becomes psychosomatic. Your mouth goes dry, not just from lack of water, but from the sympathetic nervous system's fight or flight response. suppressing salivation. The strategy here isn't to start hoarding immediately. It's to stabilize the biological platform. If you haven't established a low-level lighting protocol by hour 4, your brain's metabolic cost increases by 30% just trying to process spatial orientation. You are literally burning through your caloric reserves just to stand still in a dark room. At CyberRat, we don't light candles to feel cozy. We use red spectrum LEDs to preserve rhodopsin in your eyes. We maintain the hardware, so the software, your mind, doesn't crash before the first sun sets on a dead America. Welcome to the rude awakening phase. By hour 12, the adrenaline has ebbed away, leaving behind a cold, hollow exhaustion. This is where the macro collapse of the American infrastructure starts to manifest as a micro crisis in your own gut. Let's talk about the physics of the tap. If you're in a high-rise in Chicago or an apartment complex in LA, your water isn't moved by magic. It's moved by electric centrifugal pumps. Once the backup generators, which most buildings only maintain for fire life safety systems, run out of diesel, the head pressure drops to 0. The moment you turn that handle and hear that pathetic, hollow hiss of air, the 72-hour clock starts ticking for real. The biological breakdown. As you stop hydrating, your blood begins to undergo hemoconcentration. It thickens. Your heart has to work harder to push that sludge through your veins, leading to a dull, thumping headache that clouds your judgment. By hour 24, your kidneys begin to downregulate to conserve fluid, meaning toxins start to accumulate in your bloodstream. You're not just thirsty, you're literally becoming chemically imbalanced. The cold box trap. Now, look at your kitchen. Your refrigerator is no longer an appliance. It's a biochemical hazard. The science. Most modern food is just-in-time delivery, packed with moisture. Once the temperature inside that insulated box crosses the 40-degree pass, 4-degree Corny threshold, it becomes a literal Petri dish. The risk. Pathogens like Listeria and Salmonella begin a geometric growth phase. In a grid-down scenario, a single risky sandwich can trigger a gastrointestinal event. In a world with working plumbing, that's an inconvenience. In a world with no running water, the resulting diarrhea is a death sentence via rapid dehydration. The CyberRat strategy. This is where low-tech thermodynamics saves your life. We don't open the fridge to check the food. Every time you open that door, you're trading 15 minutes of thermal stability for curiosity. You should have already transitioned to your dry loop food supply. More importantly, this is the time to implement gravity-fed filtration. If you don't have a Berkey or a DIY nanocarbon setup ready to catch the last of the stagnant water in the pipes, you are already behind the curve. The system has failed you. Now, your only job is to ensure your body doesn't follow suit. We have reached the zero-sum window. By hour 36, the thin veneer of American civility begins to crack. And it's not because people are inherently evil, it's because their frontal lobes are literally starving. The neurochemistry of despair. By now, your body has exhausted its glycogen stores. Your brain, a glucose-hungry supercomputer, is forced to switch to ketone bodies. But the transition is messy. This brain fog isn't just a lack of focus, it's a failure of the executive function. You lose the ability to calculate long-term consequences. This is why, on the news during past blackouts, you see people trading a $30,000 car for a 5-gallon jug of water. Their Thuy-Tran prefrontal cortex has gone offline, leaving the amygdala, the lizard brain, to run the show. The social risk analysis. This is the human variable phase. In the tactical world, we analyze the herd dynamics. By the 48-hour mark, the last in, first out supply chain has officially emptied the grocery store shelves. When people realize the cavalry isn't coming, the social contract isn't just broken, it's incinerated. Your neighbors, who were friendly suburbanites 2 days ago, are now experiencing acute hypoglycemia and sleep deprivation. They are unpredictable biological hazards. The cyber rat, survival hardware. While the world outside is descending into chaos, your goal is information dominance and energy independence. This is where we talk about the fortress mindset. Communication. A simple $20 AM/FM radio becomes a strategic asset. Why? Because hearing a human voice providing data stops the cortisol loop. It bridges the gap between isolation and reality. The Edison advantage. If you're running a standard lead-acid battery bank, you're likely worried about depth of discharge. But if you've followed the cyber rat philosophy and built a nickel-iron Edison battery array, you're sitting pretty. These things are low-tech tanks. You can overcharge them, discharge them to zero, and they'll still be breathing in 50 years. They are the ultimate repair and survive hardware. The thermal threshold. By hour 60, if it's winter, your house is a heat sink. If it's summer, it's a kiln. We utilize passive thermal management. We aren't trying to heat the whole house. That's a high entropy mistake. We use aerogel blankets or simple mylar-trapped air pockets to create a microclimate around the body. We reduce the search area for heat, concentrating every joule of energy on keeping the biological core at 98.6 degrees high. The 72-hour mark is the great filter. You either have the systems in place to transition to long-term sustainability, or you become part of the cascading failure. Choose your hardware wisely. We've reached the end game of the protocol. At the 72-hour mark, you are standing at the edge of the great filter. Statistically, this is where the preppers and the survivors diverge. The grid hasn't flickered back to life. The sirens have faded into a distant, hollow echo. And the federal response is likely bogged down in a logistical nightmare of its own. The biological tally. Look at your hands. Are they steady? By now, your body has completed its first full cycle of extreme adaptation. If you've managed your hydration and caloric intake using the cyber rat protocols, your metabolic rate has stabilized. If you haven't, you are likely experiencing micro tremors, the physical manifestation of electrolyte depletion and neural exhaustion. Your biological hardware is redlining, the physics of the new normal. At this stage, we stop looking for a fix and start looking at systemic replacement. The centralized world is dead. Your low-tech world must be born. Water. Forget the tap. You're now analyzing the hydrological cycle of your immediate 1-mile radius. Can you harvest atmospheric moisture? Is there a stagnant pool you can treat using a DIY sand and charcoal biofilter? Energy. This is the moment where that nickel-iron bank or your modified Peltier effect TEG thermoelectric generator becomes the heartbeat of your home. We aren't trying to power a microwave. We are powering the tools that keep us informed and the lights that keep us sane. The mindset shift. The most critical repair you can make at hour 72 isn't to a machine. It's to your identity. The person who relied on a 4G connection and a grocery store is a liability. The person who understands the thermal properties of their shelter and the chemical stability of their fuel is an asset. Conclusion. The 72-hour protocol isn't a countdown to a rescue. It's a countdown to your total autonomy. Most people will spend these 3 days waiting for a system that isn't coming back. You've spent them repairing your mindset and hardening your environment. The lights are still out. The world is still quiet. But inside your 4 walls, the systems are running. Not because the grid allowed them to, but because you engineered them to survive. Repair the mind. Survive the system. I'm Cyber Rat. If you're still hearing this, you've survived the first 72. Now let's talk about the next 30 days. Don't forget to check the schematic links below to start your own Edison cell conversion. Stay dark. Stay sharp. The 72-hour mark is a psychological cliff. If you've made it this far, your brain has stopped asking, when will it turn back on? And started asking, what do I build next? This is the transition from panic to process. The entropy trap. In the scientific community, we talk about entropy, the natural decline into disorder. Without the grid to provide constant energy, your home is an entropy magnet. Every calorie you burn and every drop of water you filter is a battle against the second law of thermodynamics. The cyber rat doesn't fight entropy with brute force. We fight it with efficiency. Strategic asset management. By day 4, your most valuable currency isn't gold or silver, it's calibrated information. The low-tech library. If your knowledge was stored on a cloud or a dead smartphone, you are now functionally illiterate in a mechanical world. This is why we emphasize physical schematics and hard copy science. Community risk assessment. Now is the time to apply systems thinking to your neighborhood. You need to identify who is a component and who is a parasite. A community is just a larger machine. If one gear is rusted and seizing, it'll break the whole transmission. The final calibration. We built this channel, Cyber Rat, because we saw the fragility in the high-tech dream. We saw a world that forgot how to fix its own heart. The 72-hour protocol is just the diagnostic phase. The real repair starts now. Host Nin Tangvao Onkin Anmatsakban. The grid didn't just fail, it exposed the truth. You were never a consumer, you were always a survivalist who just got distracted by the lights. The lights are gone now. Focus on the work. Subscribe if you want to see our deep dive on atmospheric water generation using scavenged AC coils. Check the Survival Logic playlist for more risk analysis. And remember, if you can't repair it, you don't own it. You're just borrowing it until the world ends.